Okay, folks. Well, I went live a minute or so early, and I just did that to see if I could surprise anybody. I think I surprised myself more than anybody. What do you guys think? I bet if I put this is it back on? Is my mic on? Yeah, there it is. I'm not on my phone. Oh, I think I just got that, Garrett. Or I mean, I think I just saw that, but I hadn't had time to look at it. Well, I'm glancing at that last picture you sent me right now. That 85 million jobs part is not good. I don't think. I mean, it's going to cause some friction. Wow, $1 billion to run Chat GPT. Is that the one you mean? The one with the numbers? A lot of money in those numbers. Global AI industry in 2022 was $137 billion. And by 2030 it'll be 1.8 trillion. So 2 trillion bucks. Maybe we'll talk about that a little bit more. Hey, Doug, welcome in. Yeah, I see that, Gary. That's what I was going to say. I don't know if that surprises me or I hadn't really thought about it, but I don't know. I have to think about that. I wonder if that counts things like robots that they use in automaking factories and that sort of thing. Are they considered as AI? I wonder. Diana says she'll be right here shortly. She's just eating an ice cream. Whoa! Stop the bus. Why do I not? Then why do I not have an ice cream? Why does she not hand out? If she can't bring enough for everybody, she shouldn't be eating them there. You Canadians are supposed to be so polite, and nobody in the South would eat ice cream in front of somebody else without offering them some. Robots are different. Yeah, I didn't know. They're trained or not trained. They're programmed to do certain tasks, but I don't know if they learn as they go. Which I would think AI might be able to get more proficient. Maybe that's a science fiction view of AI, but yeah, it's cool, Garrett. If you got some, Diana's the only one that's got any. Mike didn't mention that he had any. That's what I said. No women, they're stubborn. Yes, I know. I know. I do know, Gary or Mike. It's a sad, sad thing, isn't it? I wish somebody could make ice cream bars that had whipped cream in it. whipped cream topping for the ice cream. Whipped cream is my favorite condiment for ice cream. Is that right? Are sprinkles on ice cream considered a condiment? Me and the kid annihilate boxes of ice creams like no tomorrow. my wife would say I would do the same thing, but I don't know if I agree. Or at least she would, accuse me of that. I like ice cream. She doesn't like ice cream as much, and which I don't understand, but ice cream does not last in this house that long. Eat it while it's cold. Good idea, Garrett. Or Mike, I mean. Doug, what's happening up in No Hottie Ho today, or this week? Anything earth shattering or, particularly, I don't want to say interesting. I don't know if you think it's not interesting, but, a really big deal. Well, that's just cool. I just saw something. Can you guys see this reflection right here in this photo or this drawing, this painting I've got? Well, drawing, I guess. Looks like the moon rising. Huh. Cool. Oh, what else was I gonna? I've got 2 or 3 topics I'm gonna throw out there, and maybe Garrett, since you're in here, maybe I'll talk a little bit about AI and what other people think. But I will look into that some more. I'm afraid I don't understand it nearly well enough, as you've probably figured out by now. Hey, Brenda Pruitt, I meant to say hi. Just a word of um, between me and you. Cut me back a little bit more, but not on ice cream. Ice cream don't count. Just dinner, just meals, Right, Mike? Ice cream, it doesn't count. And there's a trick to that. And I discovered many, many years ago, Mike, and you might want to pass this on. If you eat ice cream or sweet things, the trick is to immediately follow that up with a salty thing like chips or a few, not many, but a few, because that erases the sweet and the sugar, and it's just like you never ate ice cream to begin with. I've been teaching that for a long time. Mark, from Saturdays, he reminded me of that the other day. He said, I said something about eating something sweet or ice cream. I can't remember what it was. He said, well, you know what you do? You eat salt. You eat something salty after that. And he said, you taught me that. And I said, well, yes, I did. Now, that's not gone under, it's not withstood any serious scrutiny in the scientific world, but, I believe it. Excuse me. Sorry, guys. You know how it goes. I start a show, I start yawning, it goes away. I could say I'm here till the coffee runs out. That might not be a good thing to say. I don't have much left. Well, Mike, I thought about you guys and your son, the kid, lately, and his interest in aviation. This week is Oshkosh. I think I posted a couple of things on my Facebook page, or not Facebook, Instagram page. Oh, just on the phone with the guy wanting to buy your car. That's so you can buy your truck. I bet. Go, Mike. Hope it sells. Oh, you needed a second cup today. Is that right? A second cup. I mean, I've cut it back in some ways. This is how much I drink in a day, usually. Of course, sometimes I don't get it made till 11 o'clock. But I used to drink one about half again or twice that size. So you missed what I said about the sugar, didn't you, Mike? I said you can eliminate the calories and whatnot in that ice cream by following up with something salty or savory, to cut the sweet. And you can regulate that. I mean, a little salty goes a long way, so you don't have to eat as much salty as you did sweet, such as ice cream. But it does the same thing, and it cuts the calories and gets rid of that any guilt feeling you might have had for eating, too much sweets. You'll never gain a pound from it. Well, I'm not going to promise, but pardon me, guys. Let me have some manners here for a second. Okay, back. Sorry, guys. My wife gets on me if I blow my nose on camera, and sometimes I do it anyway. But so I am back. Mike only had 1 cup of coffee this morning. I think I'm going to make a pot of decaf right now. Decaf. Decaf. Okay. I don't drink decaf. I don't like decaf. Honestly, decaf never really sells well. I mean, my parents drank a lot of decaf. Of course, they also drank a lot of instant. What are you peekabooing? I've been training for the last 2 days for work. I've been in training. Oh, my brain feels like spaghetti right now. Oh, I know, Mike. If you're sitting in a classroom and if you work in outside or garages or just out on the road or whatever, and sitting in classrooms for a couple hours a day or a couple of days or even a day can just be brutal. When I was younger and working harder and every day, I mean, really physically harder in many ways, we'd have to do some kind of training every once in a while or sit in the classroom, and God, it was hard. Hey, Dean, welcome in there, Lexter. Mike says it's just common sense stuff. It's so frustrating. I felt like grabbing the pen and stabbing myself. That's pretty. That's a pretty. That's a pretty what's drastic step, Mike, just to get out of class. But I get it. I get it. I've sat in meetings that lasted. We used to have to sit in budget meetings, and sometimes they'd last a couple of days, and 80% of the meeting wouldn't have anything to do with your particular part of the company or what you were doing, but you had to sit through everybody else's. Of course, as the money ran down and got lower and lower over the years, we had to battle for it sometimes. So it was a little more interesting, but it was still hard. Well, if you come in wearing an eye patch, Mike, I'll know you had one too many days of that. As Brenda says, you could be a pirate. I'm not sure who all will be here today. I've got a feeling that Carol's traveling or is on vacation. because I think she was going to head to Florida if her dad was doing okay. And last word I saw online was that he's doing better and may get to come home today or tomorrow. So he may be at home. And if he is, I think they were going to Florida. Anybody know if they were going to Disney? I'm not sure. Maybe they were just going to be. Maybe they were going to go to Universal or someplace like that, save money. Mike, ignore that last comment, buddy. Yes to Disney. Hey, Rhonda, welcome. Mike, if you bring me a pen, I'll do it for you. Diana, you do know we're all listening, right? In fact, I'm going to put it up here just in case it happens so we'll know who to look for. Mike was watching a little bit of YouTube last night. There were a couple who were camping in an RV park in Knoxville. Well, that'd be interesting. I wonder what was the name of it. Do you remember? And then some other stuff, Rhonda says, for Carol. And everybody's saying hi to Rhonda, and I'm glad you made it in. And even Diana G, who's otherwise poking pins in Mike's eyes, seems to be perfectly nice to Rhonda and maybe others. And Rhonda, I didn't realize you'd come in and said hi. I missed you, so I apologize for that. You called the day at 1 p.m. when the car said it was 103 and the AC quit. That doesn't sound good, Rhonda. You wanna elaborate on that any? Mike, that might have been our neighbors. What? Wait a minute, I missed something. I can't keep up tonight. I'm over here clicking the wrong buttons. Their motorhome is gone, so maybe they're just doing a staycation. Oh, Mike, what did Mike say? Oh, that's RV park. Well, we don't know that though, Brenda. And then Mike says that we did a good deed today to another family. Me and Diana, we sold them our outdoor picnic table and chairs. Happy it went to a nice family that just immigrated to Canada. Well, that's interesting, Mike. Where'd they come from? Mike knows I love him, and you only hurt the ones you love. That's true, Diana. That's true. Rhonda says the AC needs recharge. Well, that's fixable. Going to buy some tomorrow. My neighbor and I are going to try to figure it out. Well, good luck with that. It may work. It might get you by. And if it doesn't, I'd take it to somebody that knew what they were doing, because they might need to vacuum it, pull the vacuum on it, and make sure there's no moisture in it. And then they could probably check it for a leak. But you might be okay just doing that. I mean, I've done that too. I don't know how hard it is to get refrigerant anymore. Probably for your unit, not as bad. They got rid of the bad stuff, I think. Well, you can give me a call, Rhonda. I'm serious. I used to do that kind of stuff. If I can answer a question for you, I'd be more than glad to. I said, that's not a good deed, Mike. If we were nice, we would have given it to him. I thought that, Diane, but I didn't want to point that out. So thank you. Yes, it is, Diana. I sold it to them cheap. And as is. Good job, Mike. If it's more than that, it's not getting fixed for a while. I got you. Good luck, Rhonda. No AC sucks. Yes, it does. I guess you guys are even figuring that out. Whew, that is getting higher. I can remember when the other kind of Freon, the regular Freon, I can't remember the numbers now, that we used to have to put in stuff was hundreds of dollars for a big can of it. That's like your propane a tank, I guess. Hey, Dave, Space Mountain Dave Cantrell's in the room, guys. He is benevolent. He is, Rhonda. Mike's just helping people out. If he gave it to him, I'm going to take that from Mike a minute. If he gave it to them every time they sat down to eat, have a picnic on it, they'd have felt guilty because that good man just gave them something that they'd have gladly paid for, obviously, because they did. So now they can appreciate the fact that it went from one good owner to another, and Mike gave them a deal. So they know they got a deal. Woo, $70 an ounce. How old is your car? We have a heat wave this week here, so it's on. I've been seeing temperatures up your way that were pretty warm, so that's what I was saying. You guys probably turning your ACs on for the first time in your life. Oh, I think it's been in the 90s, hasn't it, Mike? At least. Mike says, I didn't charge him extra for the cushions, by the way. Well, see, there you go. Doug, is it 75? Yeah, we hit 90 or 90s today. I'm not sure what the high Ohio newscast was whining one day was going to be 100 heat index. Yeah, they should look out west. I saw something today. I saw a chart today that showed, I believe it was Arizona, has been 100, like 105 plus now for the entire month of July. Yeah, Florida's been really hot too. I saw an ad last night, Dave, on the news, or not an ad, an article that said that it's been so hot down there now that the water is getting so hot in some of the more shallow bays and areas where people swim that it's almost too hot to swim in. 90s and humid. Yep. Welcome in. I was going to look at the weather if I could find it. Well, we're back down to 70. No, we're not. It's 89. It was 92 earlier. Now it's 89. And it's almost, well, not quite dark. It's 8 o'clock. It should be cooler. And tomorrow it's going to be worse. Well, about the same. But then it's going to climb up to the mid-90s. And if all works out next week, we might actually be just in the high 80s. So every little bit helps. Yes, I saw that too. I wanted to read that, Garrett. I've actually been trying to decide if I want to go see that movie or not. And part of me would like to, and part of me is not sure. Part of me is not sure if it's just something I want to go see, but wow, you guys had some days hotter in Florida. I've seen that and heard people talking about it. It is. Gulf water is hot. I've been hearing that, which probably won't be a good thing come hurricane season, I don't think. The hotter that water is, when it hits the cooler water from the North Atlantic, that really churns up lots of turbulence. If you do, let me know what you think. Have you seen it? Have you seen it, Garrett? Or are you just wanting my opinion on it? Which I'll give you. I just wondered if you had seen it. That's the whole thing's an interesting movie. I've read things about Oppenheimer over the years, not whether the movie will be about that or not. That he oftentimes said it. He regretted it. That they let the genie out of the bottle and can't put it back, kind of thing. And of course, there's always been questions about what should we or shouldn't we have. Well, Garrett, I might wait that long too. Although I have been considering going to a few movies lately just because it's something we can do. The Hitchhiking Bones are in the room, folks. Welcome in, Don. It's been hot here in northeast Texas, but we've had a lot of rain. Normally our yards are brown and crunchy by now. Yeah, we've had a fair bit of rain too, so ours are not. By this time in the summer, we usually don't have to get ours mowed, but maybe once a month because it just doesn't grow, and it's just like you said, brown and crunchy. But some places down your way, Don, have had a lot of rain this year. Brenda says, I'm afraid the weather is not going to get any better due to the way we treated our planet. Well, got a bad feeling you're right there, but we'll see. It is one hell of a way for it to get even. Mother Nature, I mean. Diana says her kid wants to see that movie. Interesting, Diana. Has he said why in particular? Have I ever told you the story about the man I met? And I was almost blown away by this fact. But when he went to he had a BMW shop down in southern Middle Tennessee, a town called Shelbyville. If you look on a map, it's more famous for its walking horse festivals. But he had these pictures on the wall of B-29s and the Enola Gay maybe in another plane. And we got talking about it and asked, and one of the guys that I was with said, "Oh, you should ask him because he was there, and he was actually flying the chase plane the day the Enola Gay dropped the first bomb, maybe both bombs. He was in the chase plane following them, and he was amongst the photographers who photographed the aftermath of after the bomb hit. And I can't remember how many minutes or miles they were behind the lead plane, but pretty good ways. But they were warned, and they had to put on their goggles and all that kind of stuff to make sure they weren't blinded by the flash, even at a distance behind. And of course, I don't know if they hung around and waited till the ash and dust cleared, because I don't know how long that took. But anyway, he was on that plane, and I couldn't, I was really amazed. Not one, I didn't even know they did that. We had a tornado storm and hailstorm yesterday at some parts. You had a tornado yesterday, Mike? And Don says, I'm going to see Haunted Mansion more. Well, good. Hey, cool. So are you in Florida or California? Or going? Shelbyville is a nice town. I'd like to go down there again. I'd kind of like to go see the walking horses. My uncle had an uncle that used to go every year because he was into walking horses and raised them. Yeah, I suspect it. He's kind of said that too. I can't imagine witnessing and then, in their case, following the aftermath of it and seeing the damage. I think that would have messed people up for the rest of their lives. I can't imagine. Oh, you're going to see the movie. I forgot about that. That looks interesting. I've seen previews for it. I am kind of wondering what that'll be like. Yeah, Garrett, I can't imagine. We had another dear friend that passed away good while back, but I met him through Mark's dad, and he used to hang out with us when we were doing muzzleloading stuff and rendezvous and that sort of stuff. His name was Ken Sylvie. And Ken Sylvie was in World War II, and he was on board one of what they call the Jeep carriers, which were small carriers that were built basically to transport more fighters and stuff to the war, out to the Pacific. they lost them in the ocean or were shot down and whatnot, and then they would replace them via these the Jeep carriers. They weren't really fighting ships, although I'm sure they were armed to some level, but they mostly just transported the planes. And he was on the ground in Hiroshima. Was that the first one? I don't want to. I'm sounding ignorant, but and he was on the ground there as an MP. He was stationed there basically after the peace treaty was signed. I think he told me one time 14 days after the bomb hit, and I'm thinking I'm surprised he lived that long. I'm surprised that ground wasn't so radioactive that it didn't burn his shoes off. Hey, Dave, you guys will have to come back and tell us how it was. Yeah, some of those, yeah. I think it's Hiroshima first. And Garrett, I don't know. Do you know if I'm pronouncing that wrong? Yeah, that's what I thought, Don. I just want to make sure I wasn't getting them backwards here amongst friends. Hey, Kelly, the Mickey Bunch is here. Hi, how are you? How are you? How are you? How are you? The very one, the one, the only Pirate Red. Those are, I mean, I think it's interesting to me that they've decided to make a movie about Oppenheimer at this date. I'm surprised it hasn't been done sooner, and I guess it has to some degree. Hoist the colors, arr. Arr. Run the captives out the gangplank. Or no, it was just the plank, wasn't it? I don't know if the gangplank. That's just for getting on and off. Sorry about that. Kind of messed up the whole pirate thing there, showing my ignorance again. I had a bunch of trainee slash intern slash new contractors that worked with me one summer up on the lake, and we were out in the boat a lot, and they started bringing me stuff they were getting. I think that year McDonald's was giving away pirates toys. They had a hook and a couple other things. I think maybe a compass. Anyway, these guys came up with some stuff and they started bringing it to me, and they nicknamed me Pirate Tim. They were gonna bring me a pirate flag, but at that point in time, they either couldn't afford it or couldn't find one. Or maybe one of the guys did bring in a pirate flag, but it was his personal pirate flag. Well, Don, I'll have to say, I mean, if it'd be only fitting for you to go see the haunted mansion before the rest of us did, unless Kelly has seen it. See, I'm so far behind. Brenda will laugh if I say this because she's gonna say, "Well, duh." But I'm so far behind in watching new movies. Half the stuff people ask about or talk about, I've not even seen. I'll tell you something else I thought I don't know. Well, I don't even know if I want to say that. Yeah, well, even after the aftermath of everything that happened at Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the U.S. military did all kinds of, bomb drops out in Arizona, New Mexico area. I guess mostly New Mexico. and or Nevada. But they, they exposed a lot of soldiers to a lot of that, to a lot of radiation and the effects of the bomb, and that had to. I'm sure that led to the deaths of a lot of those soldiers. Now they may or may not have realized that back then. I like to give them the credit saying they probably didn't know what it was really going to do yet, but eventually I'm sure they figured it out. But anyway, quite controversial to say the least. And I don't know. I don't think there's probably not many living, if any, still. I mean, there may be some survivors of the bomb drops in Japan. I think there are, but I don't think there's many. I think most of them died from radiation poisoning of some sort, even years later. By doing that testing, they just send out a signal to the universe that here we are, or that we're here. Now we have more UFOs than ever come to visit us, which is another good topic. I mean, kind of. It's one I don't feel like we've got a real answer for, but that's been in the news again. There was stuff going on here. There's been hearings down here this week about, and I mean by down here the U.S. It's down here to Mike and Diana. Talking to some of these pilots who think that, or who are on record as seeing things, and trying to figure out what they are. I have mixed feelings about that. Most of them I don't think are anything. I saw a reported sighting here yesterday on the news that I think was in Tennessee, and they showed this picture image of something flying across the sky, kind of silhouetted behind the moon, I think. And when it went by, it was a drone, like a military type drone. I mean, it wasn't a UFO. UFOs and Bigfoots are here with us. Well, I don't know. I mean, honestly, if you were from a far, far away planet and you had the technology to travel here and back and jump in and out of our space and in and out of our atmosphere and just come down and probe hillbillies or whatever they do. I mean, and if you were that intelligent, why would you come down here and mess with us? I mean, and I mean that because why come to a planet where we're killing each other and killing the planet? I mean, why would they even want to be in? I mean, why would they bother? I don't think they would. Yeah, Brenda, I agree. There are plenty of people with big feet. I don't believe the UFO alien stuff. People just need to eat turkey legs and pipe down. Well, Dean, we'll take that under consideration. Who do you think flies in the UFOs? I don't know, Mike. Or UABs, or whatever they call them now. Unidentified airborne. What is it they call them? They don't call them UFOs anymore. It's unidentified. Well, that's that's what they do, Kelly. Have you never heard that? I mean, if you ever see somebody that's been picked up and probed, it's always some hillbilly or redneck from somewhere that can't spell his own name. And I apologize for sounding that way. I am one, so I can say that. But I think that's true. They always seem to be, they never came down and picked up Einstein. They didn't come down and get Carl Sagan or what was Sheldon's favorite scientist. But they never came down and got those guys. They always come down and get some poor sod off the highway that's probably had a little bit too much to drink. Of course, maybe those are more interesting people to pick up. Let's see here what Garrett's saying. Did you hear about 100 pilot whales that just beat themselves in Australia? Yeah, I did. Mark and I were talking about that yesterday for a few minutes. We didn't get to finish the conversation. We got cut off, but It's I mean, that's happened before. I don't know if this is a bigger bunch than ever, but yeah, that's the thing, Garrett. I've heard of that. Push them back in, and they just come right back for whatever the reason. I mean, it almost sounds like one of those. What was the name of that bunch in California? They all committed suicide together and to catch the asteroid as it came by. I mean, they all. Inky says, "I'm out hillbilly too. They're looking to probe the hillbillies and drink some moonshine. Could be that maybe they're looking to see what the effects of moonshine are on human beings." But really, was that today, Rhonda? I have not heard that yet. Maybe the ocean environment is so bad there. So I mean, I could believe that. There's been a lot of concern now for several years about underwater testing and sonars and things like that that could be interfering with whales or causing issues. And they're beings. Maybe they just decided to hell with it. Oh, I'll have to look for that, Ron. I hadn't heard that yet. Somebody else died this week too in the music from the music world. I think. Yeah, I hadn't got that yet. I'm sure one of my friends somewhere will send it to me. Or it'll pop. Sinead. Oh yeah, Sinead O'Connor. And like her, dislike her, she was still for her flash in time there. She was kind of a powerful figure in music for a little bit, popular music anyway. She had some strong messages to send that were may or may not have been very well approved. She tore up the picture of the Pope on Saturday Night Live, and boy, that got her in trouble. Some thought it would be navigation, could be navigation issues due to some outside source. Well, I could see how that could happen too. I could see how that could happen from sonar waves or some kind of offshore testing, even for geological features that might cause that underwater concussion that could mess them up bad. Yes, she did, Mike. That's what I liked about her too. And I was reading a little bit more about her last night. I did not realize that she was only 56 and she had lost a son recently. Her son committed suicide. And I don't know if anybody else has heard. I just heard that she passed away. I have to believe it was probably suicide. She had tried before, if I'm not mistaken, or had talked about it. She had talked to occasionally. She did some kind of talking sessions online with friends or whatever. Even in the last few years, social media, maybe during the pandemic, and she had talked about it, and so I have a feeling that. Oh, she has three other kids. I did not realize that. I thought maybe he was her only child. I wonder how old they are, because I thought he was a teenager or maybe even early 20s. But I may not be right on that, so please correct me. Yeah, they aren't saying. I just suspect it might be. They may not ever say. Mike said I gave her permission to copy my hair. Good for you, Mike. That's good. That's nice. He was 17. That's what I thought. He was still a teenager. That's sad in so many ways. And that was I think that was last year when he passed away or when he died. But um, that's that's I don't have any idea what happened to him. I don't know if they still lived in Ireland. And it's so sad the number of teenagers these days that are committing suicide. And it's even sadder how many of them seem to be related to social media harassment and bullying, and it's just really sad. They used to talk about war. Young men went off to war and died, and women, but previously to the last few years, it was mostly men, and they talked about what a waste that was for all that those young generations, and it's even sadder now that it's happening because maybe because we don't understand why. Maybe they're fighting their own kind of war, and we just don't understand it. And maybe we never will, but Mike, speaking of haircuts, I'm not sure when she cut her hair off, but I was thinking when she first showed up over here in the music scene, I was thinking she still had longer hair. But I could be wrong about that. I was thinking I remember it because when she came out with her head shaved, I thought, wow, that's a big change, but I may be wrong about that. We won't go anywhere, Mike. If you're going after ice cream, though, bring enough to share. Where are you sneaking off to, Miss Pruitt? You don't have my permission to leave yet. You're always sneaking out. Well, I've been sitting here goofing off. Oh, yeah, Rhonda. Diana came in eating ice cream. She didn't share. She didn't offer anybody any. She didn't share any. She didn't bring extra. She just had ice cream. And she was polite enough that she said, I'm going to finish my ice cream before I come in here with all of you, which I'm guessing meant so you won't be wanting any of it. Just my guess. I had a couple things I wrote down here today, and I've had two or three things in the last week that I wanted to talk about, and honestly these are both good topics. If you want to be honest, I think the whole concept of alien observation is an interesting one, and the plight of young people committing suicide these days is just. I mean, we talk about it all the time about them killing themselves or, people killing them through gun violence and whatnot, and drug abuse and fentanyl, for example. And suicide is as bad or worse. I mean, in many people's eyes, it's even worse. Mike said, don't go anywhere, so I thought I'd sneak away. Oh, did you? Okay, I'm sorry. Well, don't sneak away anyway. He said stay. I was trying to be polite and not eat ice cream in front of you. That's what I figured, Diana. And maybe also so nobody would ask for any. Yeah, Garrett. Garrett says he says that to his family too. I'm going to eat this down here where nobody can see me. I'm just being polite. I can understand that if you're hiding it from the kids or something. There's only two ice cream bars left, Mickey bars left in the refrigerator, and you don't want to share. You would eat them in the dark or downstairs or in a closet so nobody else saw you. I could see that. Oh, Kit Kat ice cream, Diana? Oh, that sounds interesting. I might like that. I like Reese's. I like Reese's cups better, but because I like chocolate and peanut butter in my ice cream, apparently. Hey, you gonna get up and say anything tonight? You got an opinion on this? The look said something entirely not fit to say here tonight on the show. I have maple walnut. Oh, that's good too. Oh man, I saw some praline pecan yesterday at Culver's. That sounded really good. Oh, Hannah, make sure she finishes most of it, most of it off all the time. Good for Hannah. It does sound good in theory. No maple for this Canadian. I don't think you're a real Canadian, Diana. Anybody that doesn't like maple and lives in Canada, I think there's probably something going on there. Mike, you might want to check her. Make sure she's not a sleeper cell from, I don't know, South America or something that come up there to spy on you guys, and so she don't eat maple. My favorite is anything from Tillamook or bourbon praline. I just about anything. I'll tell you, just about anything that says praline in it is probably going to be good. Oh, I just had a good idea. I'm going to eat my strawberry ice cream. Get my strawberry ice cream out and let it melt. Put some banana in it and some maraschino cherries. Well, you ought to just go do that. Just don't get into my ice cream. Hard. Maybe that explains it. Or just bourbon. Yeah, that works too, Rhonda. Although I'm more of a Irish whiskey, Scotch kind of guy. But so anyway, I was going to say I had written down a couple of things that might be interesting to discuss, and hopefully not start too many fights. But these are things that popped up off the news in the last couple of days, or there's only a couple that I've written down so far. I had other ones, and I talked to Brenda about them, but I didn't write them down. So you know what that means. I didn't remember them. One, I wondered if anybody had an opinion on the somewhat controversial, I guess, depending on your outlook, but idea of Marjorie Taylor Greene showing naked pictures of Hunter Biden in the front of the committee members and panels the other day in Washington, or last week, whenever that was. It's been a few days ago now, but I thought, of all the things to do and all the stuff you're trying to get somebody on, I'm not sure showing nudes in public is maybe the way to do that, but maybe I'm wrong. I'm sure if somebody held up a nude to her that she'd sent to somebody, she probably wouldn't appreciate it. Mike said she did what? She as part of the ongoing Hunter Biden controversy, there were reportedly nudes on either his laptop or his telephone that he'd sent to somebody, which I have to say, remind me, that's probably not illegal unless that somebody happens to be a 13-year-old girl. But anyway, she did not to discredit and to point blame Diana, to answer your question. But anyway, that's beside the point. I mean, is it legal? Is it not? As far as I know, it's not illegal. But would you do that? I mean, why would you show, or is that a good way to show that someone you don't like or want to prosecute has no moral judgment? Maybe. North Georgia enjoys their crazy, I guess, because they keep voting her back in. I don't know how long has she actually been in office, Rhonda? Do you know? Mike says she's only doing that because Trump. Yeah, I mean, yeah, and I think most people would agree with that. But that's still, I mean, still to hold up nudes in front of all these visitors that are there, other committee people, male or female. I mean, quite honestly, again, whether that maybe we consider that poor taste of bad judgment, or maybe we find that morally wrong, for religious reasons. I'm not sure that that's something that's illegal. I'm not sure it's illegal to begin with. And I'm not sure that's something that should have been done. And I've read some stuff and heard some stuff on pretty neutral news people that are saying that she might be lucky if they don't press charges, because it's actually illegal to do that without permission. So we'll see. We'll see. I mean, I think if I got up and showed nude pictures of, just held them up in front of everybody of I don't know who, just name somebody, it's a movie star or a politician, I think they'd they'd probably come after me and put me in jail. I mean, that's just a guess. I could be wrong. But anyway, that's something I brought up. And then my point is not to take a side, but is that a tactic that we ought to be using in politics? Uh, I mean, if the last few years have told us anything, it's that some of these moral objections that we've had in the past don't really count anymore. I mean, that seems to be the general consensus. I can remember not too long ago in an election that if you'd brought up anything like some of these other charges or, family impropriety or sexual improprieties, you'd never have gotten elected in this country, no matter who you were. But that doesn't seem to matter. At the same time, I mean, I realize they're trying to go after the guy, and maybe this is just another way to discredit him, and maybe it's a legitimate way in some eyes. Yeah, Mike, he is. That's a big deal right now too. He had a plea deal on some of that, and the prosecution came back out, I guess, the other day in court and said they were looking into some other things. So Hunter has pulled back. His lawyers have retracted his guilty plea that would have gotten him the plea bargain, and now they're looking back into it. And the judge actually thinks it's getting kind of stupid. So we'll see. If he did the things they think he did, then he should probably pay for them. I think 100% he should. I'm not always sure that everything that we hear about in the news or that leaks out through the press is exactly right. But if he broke the laws, then he should go to jail. But I think anybody should go to jail that broke laws, especially our nation's laws and security things and that sort of stuff. But it is getting very stupid. Just go to court. If he's found guilty, he'll have to pay the price. I agree. Well, that needs a cokehead. Well, that's another thing. I don't know if he still is or not. I mean, I don't know. I know he did. I think he's been busted for that, but he's not the only one. There's a lot of other people that have been in trouble for coke and even marijuana use in the Congress and the Senate, both over the years. And I mean, that's not entirely new. Like says, if you have the tax man money, he should be paying that back. Yes, he should, plus interest. Nobody's above the law. I mean, I would have to. I mean, if I broke the law and didn't pay my taxes, I guarantee you somebody would eventually figure that out and they'd come after me and I'd have to pay it back and I'd have to pay interest on it. And, that wouldn't be any fun at all. Doug, I don't know on these recent charges. Go back to your comment. Are they looking into that right now, or is this all about the gun charge, whatever that is, and then the tax evasion are the coke charges or the drug charges involved in that? Because I was thinking that was something he had already maybe gone to court for, but I'm not sure about that. I heard North Dakota has really cheap taxes for seniors. I haven't heard that, but Mike, if you're wanting to get out of Canada, you don't want to go to North Dakota because that's not any better. In fact, it might even be worse cold wise. They used to have one of the colder spots in the country. They used to always, I can remember watching the news and there was 2 or 3 places. There was a place in Montana, it seems like a place in North Dakota, and then one in Minnesota, Great Falls or something. They used to always give as the coldest place in the United States today. So, I don't, North Dakota's not one of the places. Now, I'd love to live or go see the Black Hills and maybe check that out, that area down in there in South Dakota, North Dakota area. But I don't know about living there. I have some friends who lived up there for a while, and the winters finally beat them up and ran them back home. So I'm not sure. Although cheap taxes for seniors would be good. Okay, I had another one here I was going to throw out, and might be a topic next week if we don't really get to it. And that is the Freedom Caucus in a state I shall not name wants that state to quit the American Library Association to get all the libraries in the state, school, public, whatever, to, well, maybe it's all the state schools, to quit the American Library Association due to the American Library Association's approval or of some books that some people now find to be pornographic or not to be seen there. This goes right along with last week's topic, or what I was going to bring up, or one of the things I talked about that I wanted to bring up was how some schools in some states, or some people in some states, and this is fortunately fairly few people, who are asking states, schools not to be allowed to show art from, say, Michelangelo or Da Vinci or who's the other guy? Anyway, who've done statues and things that show men in the nude or a woman's breasts, because they consider that pornographic, and they don't want their children of even high school age being seen things like that. So they're wanting to take all those kinds of art objects or photographs or images out of textbooks and out of schools and make so they don't see them. So if they show a picture of, I think it's when it was Michelangelo's David, I think, right? Somebody correct me if you know. If you don't, I'll look it up in a minute. But I think Michelangelo did David. You're going to have to cover him up or put a breech clout on him. It kind of reminds me of a line in the movie, the second movie about the Da Vinci Code series. And I can't remember the name of the second movie, but in that movie, the Tom Hanks's character mentioned one time about the censorship of one of the popes that came into power, and I can't remember what century. Hey, buddy, I can't remember what century it was, but he went through the Vatican and with a hammer and censored all the statues that were in there that showed any kind of frontal nudity, let's just say, and broke them off, and just he censored them because he didn't think that was proper, that so anybody should see those. And most statues I've ever seen in magazines that were done at that time, the frontal genitals don't look anything like the real ones anyway. So I'm not sure how that's such a big deal. You leaving? Okay, I heard North Dakota. No, Mike says seriously, the government's involved in that. Don't they got better things to be doing? Yeah, they would. This is a state that's pretty hardcore in I'll just say a right leaning manner. But I'll give the governor credit. He's looking at this one and saying, I'm not so sure about that, because we're talking about the First Amendment and free press and that sort of thing. And honestly, some of the books and things that I've seen put up to be removed because of pornography, or I don't get it. Do they pay people to stand there nude and paint them? Oh no, not in the schools. They don't, and they don't paint nudes. Students might go home and do it. You can't ever say they don't, but they no. This was just showing them. Like if they had an art class and they used a famous artist nudes as a study or the body form, and that's a topic of painting a lot of times, is learning how to do that, paint the form and get the curves and angles and all that. That's not an easy thing to do proportionally and all that. And I know and that's the kind of thing they were trying to get ruled out. But you can go through history books or geology book, or not geology, geography books, and see pictures of statues in Rome, and they may very well show, if they're a nude statue, which quite a few of them were at that time, they may show something. But I don't think that's, if you stop looking at it as art and just see it as pornography, I think you're missing the whole point. I got to catch up with Mike because he must be on a roll over here. Mike wants a new job. Mike says he's not ashamed to stand there in the nude. Mike, we'll talk about that one night. We'll see if you want to get a. Why don't you pose in the nude and we'll all try to sketch you and paint you from our living rooms, and then we'll look at all the drawings we get. What do you think? And oh, I don't think anyone was thinking you were the model. Painting, Mike. You would be painting or panting. Maybe you meant to say panting. Oh, you guys can read this. Maybe I'm messing something. I'll send an extra letter. Don't include me in that stream. Oh, come on, Doug. Don't you want to, draw Mike in the all together? Let's ask Diana. Is Mike model material? Well, there you go, Diana. And Garrett's with Doug. Come on, guys. Mike, I'm sorry. I think you're being turned down, buddy. I don't think it's gonna work out. And if it was just me and you and me drawing it, it wouldn't turn out well anyway, and people would talk. You know how people are. We'll have to turn off the video feed. Well, if we turn off the video feed, that kind of misses the point, Garrett. Oh, look at that. He is nude material for Diana. Donut or no donut. Which would be a perfect thing, Mike. We could do this. We could pose you on your side, laying kind of laid back, on a pillow or something, and we could lay a box of donuts to block any frontal nudity, genitalia, to make it a more, less pornographic image. What do you think about that, Doug? Doug, you and Garrett, you're the ones stepping out. I decided to have watermelon for dinner. Oh boy, did you now? You didn't offer that to me. Yeah, Diana's a keeper, Mike. You better hang on to her, bud. That was a heavy watermelon. I hope it's good. Mike has another idea with a donut. We'll have to save that for the other show, Mike. And Doug says, don't get me wrong, Mike is a good looking dude, but nude modeling, no. Oh, I probably shouldn't say anything either. Oh. Mike, I had that same idea for the donut, but I changed it to a box so it would be a little bit more, appropriate. Oh, me. So let me see. I had another one here. Another thing that came up was, and this actually has to do with the American Library Association too. I got a couple things about them actually, and that is that there's a person, and I don't remember what position. Maybe he's the head of the ABL or ALA, and he is a unafraid Marxist politically, I guess, or in some of his beliefs. So the question I have for you is, should a Marxist be allowed to live in this country or work in this country, or should we kick them all out of office? Does that make them automatically inappropriate to work in our government or our society under given our freedom of speech and freedom of other things kind of rules? I thought that was a good question, but that's one of the reasons. That is another one of the reasons why some state, and this one may have already done this, was making their libraries disassociate with the ALA, was because of that. And I don't know that that's illegal either. We're allowed to support any political group we choose to, I guess, within some degree. I don't know. I mean, I don't think you'd count somebody like Al Qaeda as a political group, but not in the same context. But Marxism or socialism, I mean, we've been dealing with that for a long time, and I think in the 50s they sort of shot all that down. That didn't make somebody illegal to be here. That the whole McCarthy era thing, and the and that finally, that's kind of what that took to end all that was, as I recall. My history may be off, but anyway. And I have, before I get off tonight, I have something else to talk about. But I've got something I was going to read that kind of deals with this, if you guys will bear with me. And you guys can keep up with the chat for a minute. Hey, Carol, welcome in. You must be traveling. I'm glad you're here. Well, we do have Democrats. Sorry, bad joke. That's okay, Doug. I kind of feel the same way about the other side. So, but anyway, this was a letter. This was a letter or a speech that was given, and I may skip part of it. You guys will get tired of hearing me read it, but I thought it had some really good comments about it. It was about this very situation. And anyway, here it is. It says, in a democracy, the free exchange of ideas is an important part of making sure that citizens are informed, engaged, and feel like their perspectives matter. And I would have to agree with that. It's so important, in fact, that here in America, the First Amendment of our Constitution states that freedom begins with our capacity to share and access ideas, even and maybe especially the ones that we disagree with. More often than not, someone decides to write those ideas down in a book. Books have always shaped how I experience the world. Writers like Mark Twain and Toni Morrison, Walt Whitman, James Baldwin taught me something essential about our country's character. Reading about people whose lives were very different from mine showed me how to step into someone else's shoes, and the simple act of writing helped me develop my own identity, all of which would prove vital as a citizen, as a community organizer, and a politician. Today, some of the books that shaped my life and the lives of so many others are being challenged by people who disagree with certain ideas or perspectives. It's no coincidence that these banned books are often written by or feature people of color, indigenous people, and members of the LGBTQ plus community, though there have also been unfortunate instances in which books by conservative authors or books containing triggering words or scenes have been targets for removal also. Either way, the impulse seems to be silence rather than engage, rebut, learn from, or seek to understand the views that don't fit our own. I believe such an approach is profoundly misguided and contrary to what has made this country great. As I've said before, not only is it important for you young people from all walks of life to see themselves represented in the pages of books, but it's also important for all of us to engage with different ideas and points of view. It's also important to understand that the world is watching. If America, a nation built on freedom of expression, allows certain voices and ideas to be silenced, why should other countries go out of their way to protect them? Ironically, it is Christian and other religious texts, the sacred texts that some are calling for book bannings in this country, claim to want to defend, that have often been the first target of censorship and book banning efforts in unauthorized countries. I don't know if I need to reread that. I stumbled over that. Hopefully that made sense. Nobody understands that more than you, our nation's librarians. In a very real sense, you're on the front lines fighting every day to make the widest possible range of viewpoints, opinions, and ideas available to everyone. Your dedication and professional expertise allow us to freely read and consider information and ideas and decide for ourselves which ones we agree with. That's why I want to take a moment to thank all of you for the work you do every day. work that is helping us understand each other and embrace our shared humanity. And it's not just about books. You also provide spaces for people can come in together, share ideas, participate in community programs, and access essential civic and educational resources. Together, you help people become informed and active citizens, capable of making this country what they want it to be. I would add what it can be. And you do it all in a harsh political climate where all too often you're attacked by people who either cannot or will not understand the vital and uniquely American role you play in the life of our nation. So whether you just started working at a school or public library or you've been there your entire career, I want to thank you for your unwavering commitment to the freedom to read. All of us owe you a debt of gratitude for making sure readers across the country have access to a wide range of books and all the ideas they contain. Finally, to every citizen reading this, I hope you'll join me in reminding anyone who will listen, and even some people who you think might not, that the free, robust exchange of ideas has always been at the heart of American democracy. Together, we can make that true for generations to come. And I thought that was just really well done and said. Maybe nobody else does, but I do. I'm welcome for ideas if you take issue or have any comments. But that's what is great about this country: freedom of religion and politics. And I would say separation of the two, so they can be their own thing. The government's not, necessarily telling one what to do, and the other's not telling the government what to do. And but there were a lot of good points in that, and I honestly take issue with the whole book banning thing for a lot of reasons. But in its essence, I feel like sometimes libraries made me who I am. I've said this before. When I was in high school and I wasn't holding Brenda's hand somewhere, I was probably in a regularly scheduled class. I was probably in the library. I spent my lunch periods in the library. I had study halls in the library. I had just practically had a hall pass for the library, and that's where I spent my time. And I spent that time reading and studying, but going through just all kinds of books. I read books and I reviewed books, and I sat and flipped through countless different versions of everything from encyclopedias and other reference material to just whatever I could pick up on a given day and flip through till the bell rang and I had to get up and go somewhere else. And I'd put the book back on the shelf. I even was known to have a couple of books on the shelf of any given library, and this includes college. If it was a book nobody else was checking out, and you could tell by the card in the back or the stamp. I'd stick a paper marker in there, nothing that would be obtrusive or cause anybody any heartburn. And I'd come back a day or two later, and I'd pull that book back off the shelf, and I'd read some more. And I just did that because that's just who I am. I was always looking for more info and reading about more parts of the world or cultures, or now maybe not as widely as I should have. I'm sure I could have gone and studied a lot more and done a lot more about a lot of other things, but I tried to soak up as much as I could. And I still think my head's so full of so many trivial things or ideas that that's probably where they came from. I can still flip through those books in my brain, and every once in a while something pops out. Yeah, Brenda, for that. Hang on, guys, I can't breathe. So that's why I put that in there. I'm a fan of the library. I think libraries are important. And it really bothers me when we start attacking our libraries and start pulling books out. I know that there are people in this chat who have voiced their concerns over some of these books being tantamount to grooming or um, pornographic. And while I'm not going to ask you to change your opinion, I feel somewhat uh, what's the word I'm looking for? I expect it's not the right word, but I should give my opinion on that, and I have to disagree. The ones I've looked at, the ones I've gone out and checked out or bought, I've bought some of these books myself online so I could read them. Are they more graphic maybe than what you remember reading when you were in school? Probably, but some of that stuff may have been there. We just weren't looking for it then because we weren't interested. Ouch, that hurt. I'll get my arm on. I put my arm on his chair. He didn't like that. He used to be shy. He's not shy anymore. And then Garrett said, "Ha ha! They used to think National Geographic." That's true, Garrett. They did, and didn't. And and in some places, I'm sure they pulled them out of libraries for that. And then Brenda says it was all a ruse, huh? You think so? Yeah, well, you know best. It's like Yogi never wore pants or Smokey. Good point, Garrett. Never thought about that. And don't come on, Carol. Don't give her too much. Don't encourage her too much. I have to live with her. Yeah, Carol, are you enjoying this southern weather? Sorry, guys. I'm just trying to breathe. Anyway, those are things to think about and things I'd probably like to bring up. Brenda says there's a show on TV right now called A Ghost Ruined My Life. We always want to blame somebody. I had to put my hand on my head to calm my nerves. My hand's cold, my head was hot. Brenda's making me have run a fever or something. Carol, make sure you pack lots of Gatorade for the parks. Yes. Yeah. Stay hydrated. It's bad. I've even heard some of our fellow Floridians on here the last few days have talked about just how bad it really is. I've often wondered if it will get so bad, heat wise in Florida, that some of our everyday streamers or, weekly streamers or a couple of nights a week streamers will just have to give it up for the summertime or something because it's just too hot. No, it's not, Rhonda, and it will kill. It can kill. There's no two ways around it. She enjoyed the weather at about 9 a.m. Yeah, it's always pretty nice up until about 9 a.m. and then it rockets off the page real quick after that. Or if you're in the pool at 9 a.m., then the weather would probably suit you better. But I remember one year Brenda and I were actually down there, and it was one of those really hot. It wasn't as hot as it is now, I don't think, but it was a really hot summer. And of course, you get to Florida, and the sun is so much more intense down there. The rays from the sun are so much stronger that you just feel like your skin's gonna burn off. Oh yeah, Mike. 9 a.m. It like Rhonda says, by 9 a.m. it's already starting to get miserable in some places. When I was there, I could handle it till about noon, then go back to the parks after 6. Man, that's a good thought too, Doug. And you're right. If you're in the parks, if you do that, that helps a lot, and you can usually make it that long, but it's still hot. The smoke from Canada was nice. It made a layer between us and the sun. Well, that's true. Maybe we should be thanking our Canadian friends. Okay, I have one more thing. It's about 9 o'clock, and I think I'm about ready to go upstairs and maybe, I don't know, I might hang around. But, and this is something that I actually got. This is a YouTube blogger, live producer. I think most of his stuff is probably vlog though. And I had actually seen him and started to watch some of his shows, and then somebody else, a friend of mine, was telling me about him, and I realized it was the same person, and was telling me that somebody I ought to listen to or look at and watch some of his videos because of his. What do you have? It's okay. Just what is it? Oh, you can play with that. He let go of that like it was a hot potato when I said, "What do you got?" What is that? Oh, I just true. I agree with you, Rhonda. I agree. Anyway, his name is Peter Santinello, and some of you may have heard of him. I don't know. He's been around for a while, I guess. And honestly, I don't know if his politics may be right or left. I'm really not sure. I can't tell by what I've watched so far. He seems very neutral, actually. And what got my attention and what popped up on my screen the other night was something about Appalachia. He's done a couple of recordings in Appalachia recently, in the areas that near where I grew up, and he's talking about that part of that is the poorest part of the country, which is true. Parts of West Virginia. Hey, you were okay. You weren't in trouble. No, that was okay. In fact, I probably dropped that, so you can play with that if you want to. Huh? No, Garrett's being okay. The I haven't seen him, Rhonda. I'll have to look and see. So he did some stuff in Atlanta that were just incorrect information wise, or politically incorrect, or what? I mean, in what sense, if you don't mind me asking? Really good photo of our dog on our bed today while we were at work having a nice comfy nap. Well, you'll have to share that with us, Diana. Like I said, I don't know everything this guy's done. I've just seen the stuff he did on Appalachia, and so far, what I've seen is spot on in that regard. Um, and he seems to be doing it in a fairly neutral manner. Now, again, I haven't seen everything, so I could be wrong. I've been told that he has done some sort of backstage kind of things along the southern border that maybe some consider realistic because of who he's talking to and not who he's not talking to. I don't know yet. I've not watched them. I'm skeptical, to be honest, but I'm going to wait and see. Good doggy, keeping your bed warm. Damn, Teddy's been keeping my bed warm lately. Some days he doesn't even come down and sit with me anymore. He's not very good for company, but he's been enjoying the bed. He basically hung out with hood people who told him stories that were not true. Okay, well that's bad. I mean, I think he should get both sides of that story. The Appalachian part, what I'm seeing so far is he's just driving around talking to people he meets on the street. If someone is willing to talk to him and willing to come on camera, and I think he's had some that didn't want to come on camera, then he interviews them, and they talk about growing up in Appalachia. They talk about coal mining and the coal mines and where they feel like they are without the coal mining, and which I think everybody should hear their concern. I think they are missing some of the point there, but the coal mine thing didn't start just recently. That's been going on for quite a while. The coal mining jobs, and working the coal fields has been declining now for years. I've known people that worked up there and have talked to me about it long before the last couple of presidential administrations, probably, and even further back than that. So I don't know about that, but she said she did watch some of the ones in the Mexican border, but I don't know what to think because of the Atlanta ones. Oh, I understand that. Watch the ones about Appalachia, Rhonda, if you get time, and tell me what you think about them. Because what I've seen so far, I think they were fair. Mostly he was letting people talk. Again, now I do agree with something you're saying, and that's that some of their stories and ideas may not be completely truthful or not untruthful. I'm going to say this, and please don't take. I don't know if you're going to. I think this will be taken wrong, but I got to say it because I don't know how else to do it. Maybe less knowledgeable about topics outside the holler, so to speak, and that they talk about being in the holler a lot, and I'm telling you, people back in the hollers aren't always exposed to much outside their community circle, and I'm not saying that to belittle them. My people grew up there. That's where I came from, and I think it's true. I think they make really good. It's good to hear their points, and it kind of helps people understand more about what's going on up there and why it's been such a hot topic lately. Is Bella guarding your bed from Florida? Oh, from Phi, so loyal. Let's just say if you watch the Atlanta ones, read the comments. We all called him on it. Okay, I'll do that. If you watch the Appalachian ones, I'll watch the Atlanta ones. Carol, she's over here yelling at me. I have no idea what she wants. Yeah, Teddy does that every once in a while. But anyway, I'm sure there's other people to listen to too. I found him his topics interesting that I have read, but I am looking at the ones from Aaron about, and just to see if he comes away with some of the same thoughts and ideas that I've heard all my life or known, or I've told this before, but one of my cousins told me one time the greatest thing our mothers, mine and hers, who were sisters, ever did for us was get out of the holler and find someplace else to live. And while I respect and appreciate my holler heritage, so to speak, in some ways I do get what she's saying, because none of the people that I grew, none of my family that were in that area ever seemed to escape it, and that's not been a good thing. Drugs became an issue. I never dreamed that kind of stuff would happen, and that's part of the big issue in Ohio, or in the Appalachian area. Hey, Doug, good night. You're probably already gone. I don't know if I saw this in time, but thanks for coming in, buddy, and see you again soon. So anyway, that's just a thought. It's just somebody I've been watching a little bit of, and like I say, some of his comments and things may be off point, and some of them may be on point. We'll have to wait and see. Time will tell, I suppose. But I'm impressed by what I've seen so far, Rhonda. And again, this is not what you've seen, so I have to watch those to understand. He doesn't seem to be necessarily pushing one political agenda over the other. He's mostly listening from what I've seen so far. But now you do have a point. If the people he's interviewing and listening to aren't being evenly interviewed, then that makes a difference. There was one town I saw in West Virginia where even the Walmart closed, which was the only employer because the people couldn't sustain it. No one works there. They don't have stores or money to get things. That is very true. He did one story about that, and I've seen that. I mean, here's another thing to think about, and this goes way back, but not as long ago as a lot of people think. back in these rural areas which were pretty remote, nobody came up there much. But these coal mines paid people in script. So in other words, they gave out their own money that was drawn on them. And the only store in town where somebody could spend that script to buy groceries and stay alive was the company store for the mine that you worked for. So in effect, they were money and you were having to turn right back around and give it back to them. You couldn't spend it anywhere else. You couldn't go out of town and cash it in for cash. You couldn't trade it in for real money. You paid with script, and that script was only good at that store. And they overcharged for people. At least everybody I've ever talked to said they did. Now, I never had to do that, but I know people who did or talk about their parents had to. And I mean, that's how they got paid. And that's the only way they could survive was to spend it in the company store. Tennessee Ernie, I think, sang a song about the company store. And those were true scenarios. And so things had to change over time. And now you've got even places like Walmart that can't survive because they don't have enough money. Yeah, it is, Mike, but went on for a long time that way. And he interviewed one lady he was talking about. I know I've heard this before too from other people, but she's had her granddaddy, I believe it was, maybe her father, he used to go into a mine that he worked in where the coal seam, I guess, was low. And when they don't dig out, or they have to when they're digging and stuff, because that costs money, and they were literally having to lay on their sides with a shovel. And another guy was the number 4 shovel we used to scoop coal with. And they would have to, break out the coal, shovel it, roll over, and put it in a coal car. And these coal cars in these mines are small. I mean, they're low and only so wide, and X number. And that's what they get. And a lot of times the miners have to lay down in those cars to get in and out of the deep pits and or shafts. And they'd fill those cars up. They'd go out, and another one would come in. And they got paid $1 a ton to lay there on their side and shovel coal all day. Now, how much coal do you think you got shoveled in a day laying on your side? Probably more than we could do, but probably not near enough to feed your family, I'm guessing. I mean, in the sense of what they were getting paid for. Most people in the country don't realize that we have places like, no, they don't, Rhonda, and you're absolutely correct. Okay, you need to go out. I got his door closed. He probably needs to get out. So I'm going to say this is Teddy says this is a good time for me to shut down. Anyway, those may all be topics of discussion next week and the weeks to come. And again, I'm still trying to get my feet firmly under me in the sense that I'm just not being, I don't know. The Lord Teddy speaks. Yes, he does. You hear that? Rhonda called you Lord Teddy. Oh, he said that would be Tedward the First. Thank you. Anyway, there you go, guys. That's Tim talk for this Thursday night. So good night, everybody. Carol, if you're traveling, be safe. If you're there, have a great time. Everybody else, just have a good Friday. And I hope to see some of you on the weekend, Saturday. And if I don't, then so be it. But I'll be here. I don't know what I'm going to talk about yet. What do you want to talk about? Got an idea? Nope. Apparently not. So good night, everybody. Like I said, have a great Friday and see you all again real soon.